right. Hi, everyone. It's been such a long time, but we are happy to come back to you guys to reconnect and welcome you back to a podcast with no name and our little sub-session called All Right, a Real Discussion. And I am Paris.
I'm Ebony.
Hi, you guys. And the last time we had just started to get into the four agreements, and we did like a little, I think, intro to the book and maybe the first agreement. Excuse my background. But we're just gonna do like a quick little like refresher and do it again because I think it's been a while for both of us since we read that book and discussed it.
Well, technically, Paris bought me the book again for my birthday. Well, not again. I never owned the book. I borrowed it from someone and I read it. So Paris bought it for me for my faux birthday because she's not allowed to celebrate birthdays. But
yeah, happy birthdays.
And so I've read it already. I went through and I read it and I highlighted some things, which I didn't even do the first time because it wasn't my book. And so I went on to read it. It's a quick read. You can read it in like less than 2 hours, depending on how quickly you read. But it's a quick read. If you're interested in self-care, self-development, it's an easy read and it makes you inquisitive and want to know more. And it stirs your curiosity if you're interested in yourself. And so I really love this book. These are all of the... Okay.
And actually, the cool thing is, well, mine is blurred so you can't see, but I had the exact same book. So you can tell me what page you're on too, like when you look at it. But right now, like I got these at Five Below. So like I bought a few of them for like one for Emmy and like a couple other people who I like just wanted to read it. And again, like you said, it's a really quick read. It's very interesting. It's written very like plain and simple and easy to understand. So you can easily go through the whole book in one day. If you just have some time and you really get into it. But we're going to just go ahead and go into like the very first agreement, which is
in the introduction, because it's some things that I feel like will be a great conversation in the introduction. Okay. So I'm on page 6. So the book itself is only what? Let's see. 129 pages. So again, I think you can read it in like 2 hours. But my very first mark I made was on page 6 at the last paragraph. And it says, children are domesticated the same way that we domesticate a dog, a cat, or any other animal. In order to teach a dog, we must punish the dog and we must give it rewards. We train our children whom we love so much the same way that we train any domesticated animal with the system of punishment and reward. So I'll let you start there, mother. Because I'm not a mother and I got an interesting take on this, but I want to hear what you got to say.
But I totally agree. And also like, I remember having a conversation with my husband. And now in this new age, a lot of us are taking on gentle parenting. We're being more mindful about like our children and their emotional well-being and their mental health, and also trying to let them have their own autonomy as much as you can, because you are raising children. Like if you just let your children go on about their way, like they have a lot of intrusive thoughts. They don't understand cause and effect and certain consequences of certain actions. And they just don't have the experience of like some of the things you do. But absolutely, I was telling him at one point, I said, the interesting thing is children and dogs, both, for most people, I say many generations before, only were given value by how obedient they were. And so only then were you considered like a good kid, like you're so well behaved and you're so well spoken and this and that and ever. And people would sing your praises then, for not causing a hassle, sitting down quietly, your parents are shopping, they're right, you're right next to them, not, making any noise or touching things. When a lot of times, like, you probably were like beaten, yelled, whatever, into submission to understand that, like, we don't stray away from this path, whatever. And I remember reading another book, which I think we should also read that one and discuss that, but I won't just say exactly what that book is now. I'll discuss with you. But in it, it was saying, especially for people of color, particularly Black people, when we have our kids with us, we tend to keep them very close and we keep them very, I would say, like sedated, like very like quiet. So if there's somewhere they need to stand next to it, they need to be quiet, they need to be cool. Where other people, especially white people, they go out, their kids kind of roam, they look, they touch things. And when they kind of get like a little too far, you go, okay, hey, you can't go there, you can't do that or like leave that alone. But they're kind of allowed to roam free to explore their like environment and do that. And little black kids, if you're standing next to your mom and you start to inch over a little bit, she'll be like, bring it back in. And a lot of that has to do with a very long history of that. But it's also the understanding of too of like even in those moments of small children of allowing them to explore their environment, to have some autonomy of themselves, to, even outside do dangerous things carefully and not step in their way. But again, some of us have the problem in how we domesticate our children, especially into being obedient. Only then do we find real value and happiness as a parent in our children is when they're very obedient.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I read this statement, well, we know that I have like 50,000 million reasons why I did not want to have children, why I chose not to have children, not because of fertility, but there were other reasons that I decided to not have kids. And one of the things that helped me really put this in perspective was a piece that I wrote maybe about 7 to 10 years ago. And I think I talked to you a little bit about it, and it's called Don't Plate My Food.
Mhm.
And in it, it talks about like when you're a child, your parents, they plate your food even before they plate your food. Like, first of all, your parents decide what they want to eat for dinner or what you're going to eat for dinner, right? They cook the dinner and then they plate your food, right? And when your parent is making that decision or your parents are making those decisions, they're not necessarily caring about your likes, your needs, your wants, what you're in the mood for today. They may be in the mood for, tacos, and you may be in the mood for pasta, but it does not matter, right?
Mhm.
You may not care that as a kid or in general that certain things are good for your health, but they may care, right? And so a lot of times you're forced to sit down and eat your plate full of food that sometimes you liked that you absolutely love, you cleared your plate, and then other times you did not like what was on your plate, and you spent your time trying to vocalize to your parent, hey, I don't like this, I don't want this doesn't make my stomach feel good, I don't like it prepared like this, or maybe
Mhm.
this is not my favorite food. And your parents would double down and like, you're going to eat it, I made it, I prepared it, it's good for your health, you're going to eat it. And they kind of disregard and dismiss all of the things that you knew about yourself.
Mhm.
And depending on what type of child you are, or you were back then, you could be the type of child that's like, I don't really care about it. And you just go here to people please, just, eat all of the things that you don't like. Stop your taste buds for a second just to kind of get down the things that you don't like, or just kind of talk yourself down, and do what you're told, even though you don't like it, you don't like it, you don't want it, but you do it because that's what you're told to do. And then you have some kids like me, it was a matter of like, I'm about to play you. Like, I'm gonna do both. Like, I'm not gonna break, but I'm gonna wait for you to break, and then I'm gonna do what I want. So, for instance, I'm gonna sit at this table because I don't want it. And the moment you get away, then I'm going to ball it up in a napkin and throw it in the trash, and then pretend like I ate it. See what I'm saying? We had the kind of people that's like my sister, where listen, she's not eating it. It doesn't matter. You can get up and go to the bathroom. She's not going to pretend she didn't eat it. Those peas will be on the plate and you can sit her there as long as you want. She's not going to eat it. And
Mhm.
so, one thing that we know is in whatever way you are as this kid, the three options, you think when I get older, I'm never going to eat peas. I'm never going to
Yeah.
eat things that I don't like. I'm never going to
Mhm.
do this. I'm never going to do that, because that's what being an adult is. And then you become older, and then most of us never even realize that even as 60-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 25-year-olds, that we're not even plating our own food. We're not even plating our own plates. Like, we're not putting the foods
Mhm.
that we want on our plates. The world is kind of doing it for you, your job, your family, all of these things. And it's like, from that moment of your parents just teaching you to ignore something that is a biological need, like your food, makes you so obedient that when you grow up in the world, you don't even recognize that you never stepped into adulthood, that you never chose what you want on your plate and what you want to eat and how you want to prepare it. You're just kind of going along with what you were taught and what other people do around you in general. Just, oh, if we get married, then I'll get married because that's what's on the plate. That's what my mama told me was on the plate. So I'm just going to now eat it. We go to college because that's what grandpa said was on the plate. So now I'm fitting to eat, even though it's not what's best for me, I don't want it. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Say like if I don't want to go to college because I know me and I know that I don't have the personality to go to college. Now I'm obedient and I'm going to college because my very first interactions with life, I was shut down and told not to trust myself, not to trust my needs, and that someone bigger with more authority and power can shut me down. And we just kind of always live in that fear our whole life, and we never step into, plating our own food. So just kind of want to say that.
I agree. That's a good point. And anyway, we'll move on from that because we don't have a whole lot of time from here. But go to the next one you stopped at.
Whew, I had so many. But that was the next couple of ones was just the very next page, and it's just talking about like how the rewards and the punishments affect our psyche and how it affects like how we show up in the world. Just kind of like, you may still be going through trauma when you try to make a decision for your adult life and the rest of the world don't agree with it. You go through like that post-traumatic stress of being a kid again, and then you kind of just conform because you don't want all of the smoke that come with making those types of decisions. And so that's it's kind of like like they said, it's the domestication of things that you feel fearful stepping away, tending to your own needs over what is needed for the society to thrive.
Yeah, it's interesting because I've also seen like things of now, like some people, like I guess like child development or whatever, also saying like you shouldn't like say like even reward your children like verbally for something they do. So you shouldn't be like, oh, good job or something. You should just kind of let them go about the day, be like, oh, okay, and like do whatever. So I guess like they're not seeking reward or something like that, or they don't need that. But I think it's also like our habit to be like, oh man, like you did a good job or whatever. And I think to me personally, I think it depends on like if it's genuine. So like Ever was cleaning his toys, asking to clean the toys up, and I just went on about what I was doing. And he cleaned it was 5 toys. He cleaned them all up. He just did it like into sessions all at once. And he jumped up, he was like, oh done. And I was like, oh man, like good job. I didn't have to remind you. I didn't have to like reel you back in. Because a lot of times I'm like, clean up your toys, and he'll start, and then he's like, well, I'm just gonna play with this one for a minute. And I'm like, we're trying to achieve something. Like clean up your toys, or moving on to the next thing, whatever. But yeah, so it's like I feel like sometimes like when it's genuine, it's like you can, but also it's like if you're not giving like your kids like the chance to be like to acknowledge like a good thing they're doing, and you're only saying something when they made a mistake, then when do they ever know like also that you can get a kind word for doing something well? So I don't know. I think it's all just a learning process, but absolutely there's no way of not domesticating your children, because as an adult, as a person, you're going to push them in the path that you think is correct, that you feel that is the proper way to do it. If you're lucky, you can be mindful to listen to them when they express it. They don't like something, they don't enjoy something, they would rather do it this way instead of that way. And if it's not a big deal, especially if you had an ego death, then okay, you know. But I think a lot of people, especially parents, struggle with that of just like acknowledging that a child is also a person. I feel like in our generation and older, we didn't get that. You were always told to stay in a child's place, and you were not acknowledged as a full person.
Unless you were Ebony, because I'm still going to talk back. Ow.
I didn't talk back. Like, I was a very easy child to be like, oh, go do this. And I'm like, okay. Was I not an easy child?
No, you were.
Teenager.
No,
No different.
you were pretty easy in general until
Yeah, I was like,
you know. I don't think like you had any growing pains until you were grown, girl.
yeah. I mean, like, I like it's like far as that type of stuff, like not really, but like the only thing is like my parents were like kind of strict, so I wanted to go out more, and then all of a sudden I had all this freedom, and I was like, I don't want to go nowhere. Not really. Um, but yeah, I would say like it wasn't until now as an adult that I've had a lot more problems. But also like my dad was a little bit better than some people of like allowing me like we had actual like talks and conversations, so I was allowed to express myself. And I had issues when I was with older family, particularly when I was around older family more often, where I was in a space I was allowed to express myself, and now I'm in a space where children don't do that. You're a subordinate. So how dare you ask why or how or can we do it this way? You do what I say. And so
I'm I'm pretty
Mhm.
sure that's why my ass is flat. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty
What do
sure.
you mean?
Because I'm not taking that. I was not blessed with blind obedience. I'm going to ask questions. If you do not give me a valid answer, I'm not going to stop. And it doesn't matter if you beat me. I'm still listen, I'm
Mhm.
still going to ask. So I got enough ass whoopings that I'm pretty sure that's why my ass is flat. Okay.
I didn't have blind obedience, but my parents allowed me to ask why. So they say, go do this and go, why? And it was answer the question. And I go, oh, okay. So I've always been a person if it makes sense, but my parents will also tell you like the issues that they really have with me. If you tell me to do something, that's why, and it doesn't make sense, we're going to be here for a minute. Cause I'm like, it don't make sense. I'm not doing this, even from very small. And they're just like parents. Like mommy will tell you to this day, there was a in this exact house where I was born, at the exact table downstairs, there was a whole argument went on because I wasn't eating broccoli because they were little trees. I don't eat little trees. I'm not doing it. And she was like, parents, they're not trees, it's broccoli. Look like trees to me. So I don't get this conversation. I don't get it. Mommy tells you it was a whole argument. I was probably like 4 years old. It was a whole thing. I ain't eat no broccoli because I don't eat trees.
Because you ain't let them plate your food. That's right,
Mm-hmm.
BF.
Or the things they did plate my food, and guess what? I don't eat no trees. So anyway.
That's how I am. Um, So the next one is on page 8. I got two on page 8, but I want to talk about the red one. It says the domestication is so strong that at a certain point in our lives, we no longer need anyone to domesticate us. We don't need mom or dad, the school or church to domesticate us. We are so well trained that we are our own domesticators.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm.
And
As a person who hates domestication, I look at this all the time and I'm
mhm.
like,
Yeah. And so it goes on to say that like we in our domestication and in our lives and experience, we start to create our own book of law, which is like our truth. So we understand that like this is what you're supposed to do and this is how you're doing it. And so in essence, when you don't do it that way, you're breaking your own laws. Um, and that's how you keep yourself domesticated in those situations. It's because you've created these truths or laws for yourself. This is your belief system, which is fine. You can do that. It's just that maybe some of the things you've carried into your adulthood from your childhood weren't true, don't sustain you, don't work. And so some of that domestication just isn't working. Because again, just like you said, everyone gets domesticated. I think the same thing happens as an adult. Like you said, you get in society. We have religions, we have work, we have cultures, you know, um, that puts a lot of, solid lines into the path that we take. And so, absolutely, there's domestication that we do too. Especially, like I would think about, especially, as a woman, you have this new P word empowerment that they have. And again, I'm just put this out there. It's might be empowerment, but it's not liberation. Anyway, so
Amen. Okay,
you have
sorry.
this keyword
Amen,
empowerment.
right? Oh gosh.
And so the women say like, it's my body. I get to do what I want. I get to explore it. I don't, need a man to do this. I can accept a man, just for my own pleasures. And it's fun for me to feel pleasure and to enjoy pleasure. And this and that. And it's fine for me to embrace my body. And if I got all of this and I want to show it, it's mine. It doesn't mean you need to touch it. You need to feel some kind of way. I feel some kind of way about myself. So now it's this new, like, thing of people breaking out, but the domestication that we had before, it's like, you're a lady. Ladies don't do that. Young women don't do that. They don't say that. They don't talk like that. They don't go out like that. And if you did, you were fast, you were loose. You did this and that or whatever. And it's just like, I could be not loose and still, have one boob in a holster and the other boob coming out.
But I don't know about that per se, but word up, I feel what you're saying, because growing up, it was like, it was the, ladylike women, and then there was what they considered to be like the hoes. Now, realistically, I could not relate to the ladies. It just seemed way too stuffy for me. I have a very like fun, playful, vibrant personality, and it was just too many rules for me, so I never enjoyed that. What I really enjoyed was like the hoes, because they seemed to live by no rules, right? And so I was like, if I had to choose between what spirit I wanted to embody, which one can I choose? And that's when I decided in that very moment that I did not have to choose. It could be and both. I could take the virtues that I like from the ladies, and the virtues that I like from the hoes, and combine it and make who I am. I don't necessarily have to sleep around with a lot of men to embody the whole spirit, right? Because the whole spirit is fun. Like, let's keep it real. Like, one thing that the P empowerment got right is that it's fun. It looks fun. It makes you want to go out there and have your little H phase, you know what I'm saying? Do some things you always wanted to do that you knew would be frowned upon back in the day. It's fun, playful, light energy. It's your sacral chakra, so it's your creative energy source. And so in that, you can create so many options for fun when you're in that chakra. And so absolutely, I understand, like, how fun and playful it is, and I wanted to embody that spirit without having it to be associated with men. So
Yeah.
and both. So absolutely, I agree. The domestication, I don't feel like it serves you to be at either extreme. The best thing a person can do is look for balance. And me personally, that's what this book is about. It's telling you like how to use these agreements to balance your life. It doesn't have to be a either or, it can be an and both.
Right. And also, I feel like this book is a very good way of, like you were saying, um, but also to be an or. So it's very good at an or. I can do this and this, or I can choose to opt out of the whole thing. And this book also speaks about, to me, what I got from it is like stepping away from the messiness. And when you get to the four agreements, all of it's like removing yourself from the problem. It's not that necessarily saying that you are the problem, but there's issues and problems that's going on that all of us encounter all the time. And it's like, you know what? It's real easy if you remove yourself from it. You ask a couple of questions, you be mindful of your surroundings and your situation. And, it could be a whole lot easier for you if you just do these four simple things, and you'll probably find, most of the time, your life works really smooth. And the cool thing is that now you have a book to tell you very plainly and straightforwardly, these are the things, where a lot of us have to go through a lot of experiences, a lot of navigating and bobbing, weaving through very awkward, tense, sometimes these power struggles in relationships, and that's in relationships like romantically, within family, in work, school, you're navigating these relationships, and it's a lot of tough things, and a lot of us had to figure out some of these on our own, with like learning lessons the hard way. And so now it just gives it to you straightforward. And like, I've already learned these lessons and this is how it works. I'm like, use this the next time, not even like next time, it's just like in everyday life, like use this to be mindful of like where you're stepping. And you'll find that you won't trip as much as you used to. You don't slip up and fall as much as you used to.
Yeah.
Go to your next one.
You talked about the book of law. You talked about that recently, just a second ago, about like how you create this book of yourself, or how you supposed to behave and think. And then when you fall short of that, you punish yourself, which is just so interesting. We have 10 minutes left.
Right.
So
we're gonna have to go to another part too, because we haven't even gotten to the agreement. But let's go to the next point, and then you guys will move on to a part two.
Wait, what happened?
I said we haven't even gone to the first agreement yet. So let's do this last point you're going to in this little 10 minutes, and then hopefully everyone will follow us on to part two.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm gonna skip the other orange ones, but I have the red ones, and I think that those are good conversation topics. So I guess the last 10 minutes we'll talk about this last red one I have in this section, and then we'll move on. Okay, so it is on page 17. It says,
to my main one. Okay, go ahead.
It says, that is why humans resist life. To be alive is the biggest fear humans have. Death is not the biggest fear we have. Our biggest fear is taking the risk to be alive. The risk to be alive and express what we really are. Just being ourselves is the biggest fear of humans.
Right. And I think for you, luckily, I don't feel like you struggled to like be alive, but I feel like you struggle in life. And I feel like, especially for you, you have a lot of struggles of just being yourself. And you come and, you come and talk to me all the time of like, what should I do or how should I go? Excuse me, Tupac is not the center. I am. But
you sure? Sorry, just kidding.
Right. But he's like, what should I do? How should I go? How should I move? Because of course, some of us, and it's not bad, but in domestication, you go, I don't want to like rock the ship or something. Because, especially some of us, our first thing is to go in and be like, to fully express like who you are, even in the moment of like your anger or your frustration or something like that. But also it's like just being who you are walking down the street. Like, I want to wear orange, lime, green. And everybody tell you like, that don't match. That's tacky. And you go, well, I'm not going to wear this thing that I love. I'm going to only wear it in the house, and I'm not going to share this thing with the world. And it's something as small as that, of like allowing yourself to fully like express yourself. And I feel like in this day and age, I've talked to you about this all the time, especially after getting married and becoming a mom. And I'm not a husband, I'm not a dad, so I can't speak for them, but as a woman, being a wife and a mom, you have these not even small, but these deaths that you have because of these new roles you entered. And now you feel as if you can't express yourself fully in the way you were supposed to, because now there's people you love watching very closely. And so a lot of things die for you. And it's not all bad things, like, all bad. There's some things that you have to, but you get to a place of feeling really inauthentic. And so you struggle with that and not feeling like yourself anymore. Like you've just lost big chunks of yourself. And if you're mindful, you should be filling it up with this new person you've grown into, and mold and manipulate yourself in that, because you can. You're not supposed to be the same person forever. You're not going to be the same, 10-year-old in your 40s or your 50s or your 60s. You're not going to be the same 25-year-old at your 35. And, you've molded and created yourself, but, you want the core essence of you to stay there. But at the same time, how much of that have you really like lived and expressed for yourself? And how much of that, especially in these new ventures, like saying being married, becoming parents, becoming a boss, a CEO, an entrepreneur, how much of that did you kill for yourself to make it to this new place because you're domesticating yourselves into these roles?
Wow. 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 I mean, definitely ego deaths are so important to your growth and development, but I never considered like there are things that you just can't go back to be after having children. And again, that's not a reality that I really consider. So hearing you say it is like, wow. My reality with being myself is that I'm always myself. I don't care what situation. Some people feels like that there's a time and place, which I feel it to be fake. You're wearing a mask, and I don't do that. Like I'm not showing up a different version of Ebony depending on where I'm going. No, like I'm Ebony regardless of which environment and situation that I'm in, and it causes a lot of trouble. From the people aspect, because people, it talk about again, you creating these laws and you live by them, but then also
Mhm.
you become a gatekeeper and you punish people who don't live up to your laws, which you believe that they should be doing, how you believe they should behave, or what society deem is acceptable or appropriate. And so for me, my biggest problems always come with, living an authentic life, being myself, and people telling me that it's inappropriate to do so. Basically telling me to put on a mask like everyone else, that I'm disturbing the peace because I won't wear a mask, right?
I have a question though.
Uh-huh.
When you say like you always show up as yourself,
Mm-hmm.
like, but is there times when you show up as like a more reserved version of yourself because you're going into a space like you're unfamiliar with? Or do you always walk in like as, hi, I'm Ebony?
I believe every part that exists out there exists within. So if there is a reserved situation out there, I have a reserved Ebony. But what I won't do is be your type of Ebony. You see, in that any given situation. So if I'm in a reserved situation, I could still show up and be Ebony's version of reserve to meet the environment that I'm in, because I'm aligning myself to, source who's putting me in these predicaments that I need to be in to grow, learn, and develop. So whatever part of Ebony needs to learn in that situation will be the Ebony that they get, but it's not in response to the environment. It's in response to what I'm there to receive. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, oh, a lot of this is like, oh, in these situations, I want people to like me because I'm trying to get this particular thing. So I need to show up this way to get this particular thing. I never go in a situation like that. It's, I am Ebony and I'm going into a new environment or a new situation. And this is an opportunity to grow, laugh, learn, develop, and to be fully more of myself.
Mm.
And again, it's disturbing to a person who wears a mask, because think about like a masquerade party. If you get invited to a masquerade party and everybody shows up wearing masks, and then you show up with your face, then it's disturbing. Everybody's like, hold up, wait, what you doing? We weren't doing that. You're not following the rules. You're a troublemaker. Why are you so disruptive? And I go, listen, I already know I'm in a body, and this body is a mask. I don't need to put on another one. Okay, so we in our last minute. I say we go here, break this down. That was the last point for the introduction, and we could just move to point one. What you think?
I have one, before we move to point one, I have one more point in the introduction, what we were discussing, but we can do that and move straight into the next one. But we'll go ahead and end part one of this one here. And then I hope that you guys will go ahead and move to part two. Again, I am Paris.
I am Ebony.
This is a podcast with no name, and this is ARD, the Real Discussion. And we'll see you guys in part two.
We'll see you in like 20 seconds.
Yeah.